Hello and welcome to another Demon 212 PS3 review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Blaz Blue Calamity Trigger, but it's also going to be a PSP review where I will also be looking at Blaz Blue Calamity Trigger, only the portable version. And, well, I'll explain that when I do it, but basically it's because it's probably the best port of a console version to a handheld in the history of the world. So, anyway, at the start, you've got a load of stuff. You can go on the network, which obviously means you can go online and play against people. You can go onto the versus mode to play offline against a computer or a friend. You can go onto training to practice. You can go onto your replay theatre to view things like that. You can go to your options. And in your options, you've got quite a lot of customization, including the button config and everything. You can change the time of the matches and things like that. So pretty much everything really that you associate with a fighting game is pretty much customizable on this. There's only a few things I've seen on some games that isn't on this. And even then, they're not really that important, at least I don't think so. So, you've then got your gallery where you can view music and images and view the videos of the story mode and that, and the arcade mode that you unlock. You can go into score attack mode, which the whole point is to try and get the highest score. And then, of course, you've got the two main modes, the arcade mode and the story mode. I'm going to start with the arcade mode because it's probably the simplest to cover. And, well, that's pretty much my own reasoning.
Please select your character.
So, the whole point of the game is it's a proper fighting game, beat 'em up, whatever you want to call it. The whole point is you have to pulverise the crap out of whoever's in front of you to win the game, to go on to the next fight. You've got 12 different characters to choose from. The roster is quite balanced and pretty much all the fighters are really good, except the guy who I'm going to start with, because I want to get him out of the way, quite frankly. I won't be showing all 12 characters off, of course, but it's one of those. Hakumen here is pretty much the only one who's different to the others, and you'll see that when I then play as a couple of the others.
Oh, you know what it means.
This should be cool. The wheel of fate is turning. Rebel 1, action!
So, very quickly starting off, when you actually put the game on for the first time, the first thing you're going to notice is just how amazing it looks. The animations of the characters are fantastic. It really does look like a proper anime, but then you've also got some amazing 3D visuals behind you. So, now that the most unimportant thing's out of the way, the graphics, because let's face it, yeah, they're good, but they're not really needed to be that good to make the game playable. What needs to be, well, make the game playable is a good fighting system, which this does have. Basically, you've got your health in the top left corner and obviously the other health in the top right corner. Just underneath that, you've got the barrier, which, well, it's your standard barrier basically. You can use that to block and just things like that. However, if you block too much, the very middle of the screen, just underneath the infinite symbol, which is where the timer would be, is a shift system, which basically shows how much one character has blocked or not blocked, and if that gauge fills up, which, to be fair, the way this is going it might well do, then the character who's been blocking like mad will lose the ability to block, get a guard crusher, and it'll totally smash him out, so he's then vulnerable to attack. So, it's one of those you have to be careful with constantly blocking if the other's constantly attacking. You've then got at the bottom of the screen your power system, which you might quickly notice before it changes. On the left is very different to on the right, and that's because Hakumen is the only one who uses the constant gauge of a barrier system. He's basically got 8 little dots, and they're filling up all the time that you're attacking and beating the crap out of your opponent, and then his special moves require certain amounts of those little dots, including full-on specials which require all 8 of those dots. However, the way Hakumen plays and everything, unless you're excellent at countering, then you might as well not play as him, because attack-wise and everything, he's pretty naff, and the whole point is that he will counter absolutely anything you can do if you learn how to do it. I absolutely hate playing against him when he's a hard computer, because that's all he'll do. He'll block and counter, and next thing you know, you've lost, even though you've been the only one pretty much attacking. And it's just incredibly annoying that you play so badly when you pick him up until you learn how to counter with him.
If you must stand in my way.
The wheel of fate is turning. Rebel 1, action!
There.
So that's Hakumen, and now on to the rest of the characters. They all pretty much play in the same way. They've got the same type of barrier gauge at the bottom, which, well, I suppose barrier gauge isn't the right word, that's the one in the middle. It's basically your special power bar, I suppose, is probably the best way to put it. Filling that up by getting hit or attacking people will allow you to use special moves and allow you to perform almost like finishing moves, including one of them that you can actually get that is called the Astral Heart, and it is a proper finishing move, because the Astral Heart is used in an incredibly weird way. You basically, if I remember this right, it's either 25 or 20, and I think it's 20. You're only allowed to use the Astral Heart in the final round of the match if your opponent has less than 20% energy. And it is solely used as a finishing move. Now, they can be avoided, but it's one of those, it's pretty hard to avoid them unless, of course, you're using a character who's got a really bad one, because unfortunately some of them are far better than others. And some of them have 2 Astral Hearts that allow you to use them in air and on the ground. So it makes them even deadlier. And the whole point of the combat system works quite well, because you've got a strong, medium and weak attack, and that's it. You don't have kicks and punches, you don't have strong kick, weak kick, things like that. You've just got strong, medium and weak, and it works well on this because it's been designed for this. All the characters are new, the whole fighting system's been built from the ground up, therefore it's going to work. Unlike games like, for example, Tatsunoko vs Capcom, where 6-button characters were then reduced to 3-button characters. But the thing is, this isn't even a 3-button game, because you've then got your drive button, and your drive button basically brings out all of your character's special abilities. It's what I'm pushing now, to be able to use all of these incredibly cool ice attacks to just freeze and incapacitate the enemy and kick the crap out of them. The drive button really is one of the best and most used buttons on the game. However, don't think that one character is invincible, because the moment you think that, you've pretty much lost. Like all fighting games, there is someone out there who's able to counter every fighter. So, well, again, it's, I suppose, going back to Hakumen, because if you get really good with them, you can counter anything. So anyway, that was the arcade mode, and it's basically a normal arcade mode. The whole point is to go through, kicking the crap out of all the characters, you then beat it, you get a bit of an ending sequence to fill in some story on that character. However, if you want the more story, you're going to have to go to the full-on story mode, which the story mode's got loads of different features going for it, which makes it even more playable, even replaying it with the same character. Because, as you can see here, there are cutscene type things and that, and you can bring up speech, and there are full-on anime cutscenes throughout the game as well that just look absolutely fantastic. But the whole uniqueness to the story mode is that winning or losing certain fights will change how that story unfolds, and it's very good that way. But other than having extra story, the game pretty much plays the same. It's just a standard fighting game where the whole point is to kick the crap out of your opponent still. Just as I say, winning or losing key fights can change how the story goes. And one of the best things about the game is, I suppose, the fact that anyone can play it, because you can instantly get into it and start to master it because of the right analog. You can actually put shortcuts up, pretty much, where you can actually pull off special moves, like, for example, in Street Fighter, Ryu's Fireball, you could just blast up on the right analog, and you'd pull it off, which means that anyone can jump into it. However, you've then got the fact that you can switch those off completely for when you're playing online, because you can disable them so that you don't have to worry about getting beaten by someone who's never played the game before, who gets lucky because they just constantly blast up on the right analog or something like that. The only downside to this game, really, is that they spent so long taking it over to Europe that when it finally came out over here, the second one pretty much came out in America. But if you are in the UK or Europe or anything and you're buying it, you will get some very special things, because you've got access to the limited edition, which it really, really is one of the worst limited editions I think I've ever had on record. Basically, you get an art book, you get a DVD telling you how to play the game, and then you get these. By pushing start on the character, you can choose certain colours. Now, you can do that on the game anywhere. However, a load of the colour sets were unlockable DLC, which cost a fortune for just a few different colours, and I don't understand why they actually were charging for that, because it's so obvious it was built into the game. Exactly the same fact that we've now got them here without having to pay for them, so that kind of does prove they're built in already. And it just basically allows you to, well, change colours and things like that. You can have an all gold character if you want for some reason, and I'll just show that now before cutting over to the PSP one.
Fate is turning. Rebel 1, action!
So, there we go. And believe it or not, I think that will cost something like $2.50 to get this set of costumes. So, yeah, they've kind of given us a slightly better deal just simply by not ripping us off like they ripped off the US audience and the Canadian audience, etc, etc. But even so, it is a little annoying that it took about 8 months to get the game over here, and now the sequel's out. So, pretty much everyone's going to stop playing this because now the sequel's out. So, that depressing news aside, although I suppose it's not really depressing because the second game looks amazing and I will hopefully be getting it, onto the PSP one anyway, is what I'm trying to say. And the PSP one, other than the graphics be having a total knockdown for obvious reasons that it's nowhere near as powerful as the consoles, you're playing the identical game. It really is. You could actually... This game is so perfect ported that you could play this game for practice on your way to your friend's house. So say you've got Blaz Blue, your friend lives an hour away, he's got Blaz Blue, you're going over to play some Blaz Blue. And I've said Blaz Blue too many times already, but I'm going to continue saying it. You can get on your PSP, hop onto the bus, drive for the entire hour over to your friend's house and play this and get some practice in. Because the only thing that's pretty much different are the fact that they've had to sacrifice some of the controls. Although, to be fair, that's not really telling the truth, because the PSP version is actually the better version. It's got features that the other version does not. And it's why, if you've got some way to play this game multiplayer on the PSP, either using the ad hoc party on the PS3, or just by maybe you've got a couple mates with a PSP, then this is the version to go for. Because beating the game gets you credits, which you can then spend in the shop. And it allows you to buy the unlimited versions of the characters and the Astral Hearts, and instead of just beating the game to get the Astral Heart like on the PS3 version, you can beat the game, get enough money to buy 2 or 3 Astral Hearts. You can buy some episodes of Teach Me, which is a training type thing. You can buy special illustrations. It adds so much more depth to the gameplay because you've actually got something to do. You've got a bigger excuse for playing it. You've then also got the exclusive to PSP version, the Legion mode, which I actually love. I can't stop playing it. So let's go on to Legion and explain it. You can obviously check the game rules yourself if you want to, but mainly you go on to new game and then you've got easy, normal and hard. I'll put it on easy just for now, just to show it off, because it doesn't make the battling easier, it makes the map easier. And again, I'll explain that when it's on screen. I'll also mention that the PSP version, to be fair, as much as it has a lot of extras, doesn't have the DLC colours or anything that the PS3 version does. You've still got a few to choose from, but you haven't got them all. The Legion mode, though, now that you can see it, the whole point is it's a map, and you basically start with a single character, and you have to go on and then fight a character. And if you beat him, you get him. And you have to amass an army, and your army has to last throughout the entire Legion mode, beating your way to the end to fight the boss, and if you do that, you beat that version of the Legion mode, you go on to the next difficulty. And that's the whole point of it. It is really good. I've always loved this sort of thing on fighting games. Things like Soul Calibur had it, where it's adventure mode type thing, and it's just amazing that, look, it plays so well, just like the PS3 version, but it's in the palm of your hand, and you've got all these features like this. So, as I say, it is pretty much a perfect port. It plays just like the console version. So, if you're a fan of the console version and you've got a PSP, it's well worth looking at because the new features are excellent. I really do play Legion mode all the time. It's one of the most fun modes on the whole of Blaz Blue because, as I say, the whole point is you beat the crap out of people to get them to join you, and it basically forces you to play as characters you wouldn't ordinarily play as because it's pretty much random, the characters that you fight. So it's one of those. You could end up with 4 Arakoons in your party if you so wanted Arakoon because you love playing as them, which to be fair I do, or have 2 Jins and 2 Tower Attackers and things like that. It's just really cool how it works. So there we go then. I've pretty much finished everything I've got to say, so I'm going to leave you with a bit of music, and I might as well cross over from the PSP to the PS3 if I've got time, because looking at the camera I'm going to be pretty stretched here.
Shuriken Nia! Doria! I see Ulu! Shuriken Uluria! Uluria! Nia! Doria!
So there we go then. That's been the review. I hope you found it helpful. I don't score the games because that's based purely on opinion, so instead I'll leave you to make your own mind up.